I come to you today with a message that will shake the very foundation of how you've been living. A message that will challenge you to rise higher, to stand stronger, and to stop being trapped in the chains of pleasing others. For too long, many of you have believed that being a nice woman is the highest virtue. You've smiled when you wanted to scream. You've agreed when your heart said no. You've carried burdens that were never meant to be yours, and all in the name of being nice. But let me tell you something. God never called you to be nice. He called you to be bold, wise, and fearless. He called you to walk in truth, not tiptoe around others' feelings. He called you to be strong, not submissive to the pressures of this world. Some of you are exhausted. You've bent over backward to please people who don't even see your worth. You've given your time, your energy, your love, and yet you feel empty. Why? Because being nice is not the same as being strong. And today, I am here to tell you, it is time to stop being the nice woman. It is time to rise, to take your place, to embrace the woman you were created to be. Stay with me, because by the time this message is over, you will know how to step into your power, set boundaries, and walk in confidence like never before. Being nice is what the world tells women to be. But let's be honest, what does nice really mean? It means silent. It means agreeable. It means putting others first, even when it destroys you. And that is not the life you were created for. Some of you have never said no because you're afraid of disappointing people. But what if I told you that every yes that violates your soul is a step away from your calling? No is not a bad word. It is a weapon of wisdom. The strongest women in history were not nice. They were kind but firm. They loved, but they didn't allow themselves to be used. You must decide today, are you living for approval, or are you living for purpose? God created you to be bold, to speak truth, to walk in confidence. The world needs warriors, not doormats. The world needs women who know their worth, who set their standards high, and who refuse to shrink themselves for anyone. SES, the time to rise. Now is the time to break free. Now is the time to stop being the nice woman and start being the woman of purpose, power, and strength. Are you ready? Then stand up, step forward, and never shrink back again. Rejection is one of the deepest wounds a person can experience, and for many women, it becomes a controlling force that shapes their entire lives. From childhood, many have been conditioned to believe that their worth is tied to how well they are liked, how much they accommodate others, and how effortlessly they keep the peace. They grow up being told to be polite, to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, and to put others before themselves. But as they step into adulthood, this pattern becomes a prison. They fear saying no because they don't want to be seen as difficult. They avoid speaking up because they worry about being judged. They suppress their true thoughts, feelings, and desires, all in the desperate attempt to avoid rejection. And yet, no matter how much they give, no matter how much they sacrifice, rejection still comes. The truth is, rejection is a part of life, and the more you try to avoid it, the more power it has over you. When you live in fear of rejection, you become a puppet, controlled by the expectations and opinions of others. You shape your words, your actions, and even your identity to fit into a mold that was never meant for you. But here's the reality. No matter how much you try to please, you will never be able to make everyone happy. Someone will always disapprove. Someone will always misunderstand. Someone will always find fault. So why continue to live in fear? Why continue to shape your life around the impossible task of being universally accepted? There comes a moment when you must decide that rejection will no longer define you. You must come to a place where you realize that rejection is not always a curse. It can be a blessing. Sometimes rejection is God's way of redirecting you. Sometimes rejection is a sign that you are growing, evolving, and stepping into a higher version of yourself. The people who once applauded you may no longer understand you. The ones who once welcomed you may start to distance themselves, and that's okay. Growth comes with loss. Transformation comes with separation. And stepping into your true calling often means leaving behind the need for approval. When you finally let go of the fear of rejection, you gain something far greater: freedom. Freedom to be authentic, freedom to speak boldly, freedom to pursue what truly matters without constantly looking over your shoulder. You begin to attract people who respect you, not for what you can do for them, but for who you truly are. You start setting boundaries without guilt. You start prioritizing your peace without apology. And most importantly, you start living not for the fleeting validation of others, but for the purpose and calling that was placed inside of you from the very beginning. For too long, women have been taught that saying no is rude, selfish, or even unkind. From an early age, they are conditioned to be agreeable, to comply, to put the needs of others above their own. They learn that a good woman sacrifices, accommodates, and never upsets anyone. But this belief is dangerous. It traps women in cycles of exhaustion, resentment, and unfulfilled potential. It keeps them bound to obligations they never agreed to, relationships that drain them, and expectations that suffocate them. And all because they are afraid of what will happen if they simply say no. But here's the truth. Saying no is not a rejection of love, kindness, or service. It is an affirmation of value, purpose, and self-respect. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your spirit, you are saying no to something that does. Every time you allow someone to take advantage of your willingness, you are allowing yourself to be diminished. And every time you silence your inner voice out of fear of disappointing others, you are betraying yourself. Some women struggle to say no because they fear conflict. They worry that if they refuse, they will be seen as uncooperative, difficult, or even unloving. But the truth is, real love and respect are never built on silent suffering. You cannot build strong relationships by allowing yourself to be a doormat. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. The ones who don't, they were never for you to begin with. Then there are women who fear that saying no will make them less valuable in the eyes of others. They have been taught that their worth is measured by how much they do for people, how much they give, how much they endure, how much they tolerate. But true worth is not found in endless self-sacrifice. You were not created to pour out until you are empty. You were created to walk in strength, wisdom, and purpose. And sometimes that means saying no without apology. There is power in refusing to be controlled by guilt. There is power in knowing your limits and protecting your peace. There is power in standing firm, even when people don't understand. Because the moment you start saying no to what drains you, you make room to say yes to what fuels you. You create space for growth, for joy, for the life you were meant to live. The world does not need more nice women who say yes to everything and lose themselves in the process. The world needs strong women who know when to say yes and when to say no. Women who are unafraid to set boundaries, to protect their energy, and to walk in the confidence of knowing their worth. Because the day you start saying no without guilt is the day you start saying yes to the life you were meant to live. Boundaries are one of the most misunderstood and undervalued aspects of a woman's strength. Many women have been raised to believe that having boundaries makes them cold, distant, or unkind. They have been taught that love means always being available, always saying yes, always putting others before themselves. But what they fail to realize is that without boundaries, there is no real love, only obligation, exhaustion, and resentment. A woman without boundaries becomes a woman who is constantly drained. She is the one who always picks up the extra work, always sacrifices her own needs, always extends herself beyond her limits. She is the one who listens to everyone's problems, but has no one to listen to hers. She is the one who accommodates everyone else's desires, but never speaks up for her own. And over time, she begins to fade, not because she is weak, but because she has given so much of herself away that there is nothing left. But here is the truth. Boundaries are not barriers. They are safeguards. They do not push people away. They teach people how to treat you. A woman who sets boundaries is not rejecting love. She is protecting her capacity to give it. She understands that she cannot pour from an empty cup, that she cannot be everything to everyone and still have something left for herself. She recognizes that just as she respects the limits of others, her own limits deserve to be honored as well. Yet many women struggle to enforce boundaries because they fear disappointing others. They have been conditioned to believe that a good woman is one who sacrifices without question, who bends without breaking, who gives without expecting anything in return. But this mindset is dangerous. It creates a cycle where others take and take while she continues to diminish. The truth is, people who truly value you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't were only benefiting from your lack of them. Boundaries are not selfish, they are necessary. They allow you to protect your time, your energy, your emotions, and your peace. They allow you to say no when something does not align with your values. They allow you to walk away from toxic relationships without guilt. They allow you to live with clarity and confidence, rather than being pulled in every direction by the demands of others. The moment a woman stops apologizing for her boundaries is the moment she steps into her power. She no longer tolerates being used or manipulated. She no longer bends to every request or expectation. She no longer lives to please. She lives with purpose. Because a woman with boundaries is a woman who is truly free. Free to love without being taken for granted. Free to give without being depleted. Free to walk boldly in the life she was meant to live. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she must decide, will she continue to shrink herself to make others comfortable, or will she rise into the boldness she was created for? Too many women live in the shadows, holding back their voices, their opinions, and their strength, because they have been told that being bold is dangerous. They fear being labeled as too much, as difficult, as intimidating. So they stay quiet when they should speak up. They step aside when they should take their place. They settle for less than they deserve because they don't want to be seen as ungrateful. But the truth is, the world does not need more women who are afraid of their own power. The world needs women who are unapologetically bold. Boldness is not arrogance. Boldness is not rebellion. Boldness is knowing who you are and refusing to be anything less. It is standing in your truth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. It is using your voice, even when people try to silence you. It is walking with confidence, not because you think you are better than anyone, but because you refuse to believe that you are less. Boldness is the willingness to step into the unknown, to take risks, to challenge what is wrong, and to pursue what is right, even when no one else is doing it. But here's the thing about boldness. It will cost you. When you choose to stand firm, some people will walk away. When you refuse to be manipulated, some people will get angry. When you stop being nice just to keep the peace, some people will call you selfish. But do not let their discomfort make you doubt yourself. A woman who chooses boldness over approval is a woman who cannot be controlled. She does not beg for validation. She does not seek permission to be herself. She does not water herself down to make others feel secure. And that kind of woman is unstoppable. Stepping into your boldness means owning your decisions and not second-guessing yourself because of what others might think. It means recognizing that you have a purpose greater than just being liked. It means standing firm in your values, your boundaries, and your worth, even when people try to shake you. You were not created to fade into the background. You were not made to play small. You were born to be a force, a light that cannot be dimmed, a voice that cannot be silenced, a presence that cannot be ignored. The world will try to make you believe that boldness is a flaw, that confidence is arrogance, that strength is a threat. But the truth is, bold women are the ones who change the world. Bold women refuse to accept less. Bold women lead, inspire, create, and transform everything around them. And today you must decide, will you keep playing small, or will you step fully into the boldness that was always meant to be yours? There is a fire inside every woman, a fire that was placed there by God Himself. It is the fire of strength, of wisdom, of courage. It is the fire that pushes her to stand up when the world tells her to sit down, to speak when others expect her to stay silent, to rise when life tries to push her down. But for too long, many women have been taught to smother that fire. They have been told that being strong makes them unlovable, that having a voice makes them difficult, that standing firm makes them unkind, and so they shrink. They hide their light. They trade their power for approval. They suppress the very strength that was meant to set them apart. But hear me today. God did not create you to be small. He did not call you to live in fear. He placed boldness inside of you so you could walk in the fullness of who He created you to be. Boldness is not about being aggressive or loud. It is about being unshakable in your identity. It is about knowing who you are, whose you are, and why you are here. It is about refusing to let fear dictate your choices, refusing to let doubt steal your destiny, refusing to let the opinions of others define your worth. The enemy wants women to believe that they are weak, that they are meant to be passive, that they should simply go along with whatever the world tells them. But the truth is, a woman who knows her God-given boldness is a threat to everything that seeks to keep her bound. When a woman rises into her boldness, she stops apologizing for her gifts. She stops explaining herself to people who were never meant to understand her. She stops living to meet expectations that were never hers to carry. She begins to walk in authority, not arrogance, but authority. She no longer asks for permission to be herself. She no longer seeks validation from those who only want to control her. She steps forward with faith, knowing that if God has called her, no one can stop her. But rising into boldness will cost you. It will cost you approval from the wrong people. It will cost you comfort, because growth always stretches you. It will cost you familiarity, because stepping into boldness requires stepping into new territory. Some people will be intimidated by your confidence. Some will try to pull you back into the version of yourself that was easier to manipulate. Some will distance themselves because they can no longer control you. Let them go. Anyone who cannot handle the fullness of who you are is not meant to walk with you into your purpose. You were not created to blend in. You were not created to be silent. You were created to shine, to lead, to stand firm in your truth. And today, you have a choice. Will you keep shrinking, or will you rise? Will you keep hiding, or will you step into the boldness that was always yours? A life well lived is not measured by how many people liked you. but by how many lives you touch. Too many women spend their days trying to please, trying to be agreeable, trying to fit into the mold that society has placed upon them. They believe that their worth is tied to how much they give, how much they endure, and how much they sacrifice for others, often at the expense of their own calling. But the world does not need more women who simply exist to keep the peace. The world needs women who create change, who stand firm in their purpose, and who leave a legacy of impact. A woman of impact does not live to be liked. She lives to make a difference. She is not concerned with being nice at the cost of her own truth. She does not dilute her message to make others comfortable. She does not waste time trying to prove her worth to people who will never see it. Instead, she focuses her energy on the things that matter. She builds. She leads. She speaks with authority. She chooses purpose over popularity. She understands that her time, her energy, and her voice are too valuable to be wasted on people-pleasing, but make no mistake, being a woman of impact is not easy. It comes with challenges, with opposition, with moments of loneliness. Not everyone will understand you. Some will criticize you. Some will try to silence you. Some will resent the fact that you are no longer the woman who says yes to everything, who bends to every demand, who lives for everyone else but herself. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them walk away. Because the women who change the world are never the ones who stay small for the sake of keeping others comfortable. They are the ones who rise, who break barriers, who refuse to accept mediocrity as their destiny. A woman of impact knows her worth, and because of that, she does not settle. She does not entertain toxic relationships. She does not stay in places where she is not valued. She does not waste time chasing validation. She moves with purpose, with conviction, with clarity. She walks into rooms and commands respect, not because she demands it, but because she carries herself with the confidence of a woman who knows who she is, and that is the woman you were always meant to be. Not just someone who survives each day, trying to keep everyone happy, not just someone who exists in the background, afraid to take up space. You were meant to create, to lead, to influence, to inspire. You were meant to be a light in the darkness, a voice of truth in a world full of noise. But you cannot step into that power if you are still trying to be the nice woman who never upsets anyone. Today you must decide, will you keep living for approval, or will you become the woman of impact that you were created to be? The time for playing small is over. The time for being the nice woman who suppresses her voice, ignores her own needs, and shrinks herself to keep the peace is done. You were never meant to live a life ruled by fear, guilt, or the expectations of others. You were meant to stand boldly, speak truthfully, set boundaries unapologetically, and walk in the power that has always been inside of you. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to make an impact. You are not here to live in the shadows. You are here to step fully into your purpose. The moment you stop being afraid of rejection, the moment you stop apologizing for your strength, the moment you refuse to be anything less than who you were created to be, that is the moment your true life begins. And yes, it will cost you. You will lose people. You will face resistance. You will walk away from relationships, habits, and mindsets that no longer serve you. But what you will gain in return is freedom. Freedom to live with confidence, freedom to speak without fear, freedom to pursue your purpose without hesitation. The world may not be ready for you to step into your power, but that is not your concern. You were not created to wait for permission. You were created to rise. So today I challenge you. Stop being the nice woman who lives to please others. Stop sacrificing your voice for the comfort of those who never deserve your silence. Stop dimming your light when you were meant to shine. The time is now. Walk forward boldly and fearlessly, and never, ever look back.